Leanne McAdoo has put together a powerful 6-minute report today that was going to be airing on the nightly news tonight, and it still will. We're going to be premiering that here, but it'll also be on with more tonight. Then she's going to Flint, Michigan this evening or tomorrow morning as soon as we get a flight to cover all of this with David Knight. Leanne McAdoo, you've heard my rant about this. What's your view on it before we go to your report?
Well, that's what I think is really important for a lot of people to understand, is that you basically have these mad scientists there at the water supply. They are kind of working with these different tinctures, and they're saying, oh, well, that's corrosive, so let's add this agent to it. And oh, well, that's going to cause cancer when you mix those two compounds together. That's pretty much what happened in Sacramento when for over a year, they knew that they were mixing this agent. Once they put this coagulant into the water to kind of bring down those toxins that were in the river water they were pulling in, it created a cancer-causing compound. And they knew it. It was causing miscarriages, things like that, but they just let it go on for a year. Same type of thing that's happening here in Flint, Michigan. They were messing around with some different compounds to try and take out this notorious toxic river water. So they were mixing different things, and it created, it just caused a huge problem, and they weren't adding an anti-corrosive agent into it. So it starts eroding all of these old lead pipes, eroding the iron water mains, and it's all going, and the whole time.
But beyond that, and the buildup from the old water treatment facility that was adding fluoride in, now that's all built up. It's kind of like a water filter in your house. If you let it go too long, suddenly your water tastes horrible. It starts sloughing all the toxins, and it's 20 times worse. So here's the takeaway. There is genocide going on against humanity by what they add to the water, but then when it really starts getting bad, then it becomes a big example, and people claim it's racism, when all it is the precedent set to send poison to us through the water systems, and then it all becomes a distraction that our water is purposely poisoned because now they make it about racism.
Exactly. It's about racism, classism. So, of course, that's why Hillary Clinton jumped on this, because this could be a political power point for her. And they're completely ignoring the fact that in Sacramento or now Stockton, they're planning on using that same agent that was cancer-causing. Why wasn't anyone outraged about that? They're only outraged about this because they can point racism. And like I point out in my report, just like with the scandal there with the militarization of the police and police brutality, rather than allowing us to all come together and fight that, they want to make it a race thing. And they're doing the same thing with the water. Meanwhile, this is happening all over the country.
And again, I'm going to have to skip this network break because I'm going to play your full report and then come back with Jakari. So we've got a few minutes left here. Get into the fact, and of course, we're going to do even more reports. This has happened all over the country in areas that are 60, 70% white as well. We should all come together and say, stop it with the water. Citizens should get together and go test the water. Like folks used to do with the nuclear power plants, and they kept catching it being radioactive. We sent Jakari out a few years ago when we knew the radiation levels were up on the West Coast. He found some areas 15 to 20 times regular background radiation with 2 certified field meters and a Geiger counter, and the media went, oh, you're not radiologists, you don't know. The Army went out to where we went and said, no, it was true, and a big investigation started. So, I mean, people were catching fish that were 25 times the radiation level. And then later it came out, okay, we covered up the tuna, it's got high radiation. See, Jakari went and did that. And again, that's his job as a journalist. Where were all the other journalists? You see? So were they dumping nuclear reactors in the 60s and 70s off the West Coast because they don't like black people? It's because the globalists are crazy. They hate everybody. Why did they build 10+ reactors on fault lines and tsunami lines in Japan?
They're just
Why did the Japanese government do it? Because they're anti-Japanese? They're anti-human, folks. It's crazy. And so it's a good thing people are upset about their water, but I want you to go educate them. I want you guys to print up today, like Harvard studies, and go, what about the fluoride? This is what builds up in your pipes. This is why it's really bad.
Well, and that's the other thing, is that they had a lot of activists this last year, I guess around April, trying to fight to get the fluoride taken out of the water. So here, the state, the government, they could afford to continue fluoridating the water, but they wouldn't pay $100 a day for this anti-corrosive agent that was now eating all the lead out of the old pipes. So they keep on fluoridating, but...
Here's the bottom line. Mass industrial water treatment is a giant scam, a big boondoggle, and it's ripping people off. It isn't protecting the people. It's a scam. You've got to filter your own water. I'm all about mass distribution of water, But again, in Austin, Texas, we have totally clean water. There's no reason to treat it. They still do it. They got to treat the sewage before they put it back into the lakes. That's surface water. And then it filters through the sediment back into the aquifer. The world, the planet knows how to filter water, not these globalists. But again, they want the money off of it. Leanne, here's your report.
President Obama has declared a federal emergency for Flint, Michigan, after a devastating man-made disaster was created by the state, leaving hundreds of thousands of residents there with contaminated drinking water. Now, all of this happened about 2 years ago when the city decided to switch the water supply from Detroit to the Flint River, which is a tributary that runs through the town, and it's notorious to its residents for its filth. Now, immediately following this switch, the residents were complaining about the taste, the odor, the appearance of the water, but state officials kept reassuring them the water was completely safe to drink and that there was nothing to worry about. But now we know that that was a dangerous lie. Researchers from Virginia Tech found that the water coming from the Flint River was 19 times more corrosive than the water coming from Detroit, but they weren't treating it with an anti-corrosive agent. More than half of the homes have pipelines made of lead, which means this corrosive water was now leaching the lead out of the pipes, and it was going into these people's homes for more than 18 months. Little segue here, this anti-corrosive agent would have cost the city about $100 a day. But instead, I guess they were able to find countless dollars to fluoridate the people's water. So to them, allegedly stopping cavities is more important than stopping brain damage. So 18 months later, in the fall of last year, researchers discovered that the amount of children with above average lead levels in their blood had doubled. Now, there is no safe level of lead in blood, but lead poisoning causes brain damage and other neurological health issues, and it's particularly damaging to developing children as well as fetuses. Now, the city said that they switched the water back to Detroit in October, but it was too late. The damage was already done, and there is no telling how long these pipes are going to continue to leak lead. Now, the Washington Post does a really good job at breaking down visually just how high above normal Flint's lead levels really were. So the EPA considers 5 parts per billion to be safe. But 90% of the homes in Flint were reporting 27 parts per billion. 10% of the homes in the sample had lead levels much higher than this. The highest reading registered 13,000 parts per billion. The EPA considers water to be toxic waste level at 5,000 parts per billion. So parents haven't even really seen the long-term effects of what this lead poisoning is going to be doing to them, all because a state-appointed manager wanted to save money. They lied to residents for 2 years, told them the drinking water was completely safe. All they needed to do was just boil the water. And of course, now these kids who have been poisoned are going to have to be supported for decades. And this researcher, she's a Flint area pediatrician, Dr. Mona Hannah Atisha, and she was actually studying the lead levels in some of Flint's children, and she was the one who actually forced the state to acknowledge this lead problem. The city tried to discredit her research, taking water samples of their own, saying everything was completely fine, but of course she was able to prove that that wasn't true, and now she's saying that all of the city's children under 6 should be treated as exposed. So that's almost 7,000 children there who are being affected by this. Now, Michael Moore, of course, he's there in Flint. He's calling it a crime scene. He's accusing government leaders of intentionally poisoning thousands of people, and he is pinning the government's decision, of course, on race and poverty, saying that this never would have happened in more affluent neighborhoods, and this is actually the exact same thing that Hillary Clinton said at the end of the Democratic debate in her closing comments, that this was about race, this is about poverty. And of course, you know, this could be the case here in Michigan, but just like the issue of police brutality, they are now trying to divide this and make this a race class thing. But it has nothing to do with that. Just take a look at Sacramento. The city admitted to secretly testing a cancer-causing agent at its main water treatment plant in order to cut costs. The substances that were forming in the city's drinking water could cause cancer, birth defects, and even miscarriages. Red flags went up almost immediately for this, but here again, state officials completely ignored that, and instead they expanded this water treatment program, even though they knew that there was some issues there with it. And I've reported on residents in St. Louis, scientists who were told directly by the EPA to not worry about the nuclear material that was leaking out of this landfill. They said that these radioactive materials that were leaching into the groundwater were heading in an opposite direction from the city. Meanwhile, the residents had to point out to the EPA that this is the exact part of the underground water where they get their drinking water from. So it's going to be a huge problem in the future. And, you know, let's not forget about the EPA, who destroyed an entire ecosystem there at the Animas River. And a lot of residents said that the EPA knew that this would happen if they tried to clean up the mine in such a way. Some people went as far as accusing the EPA of doing this on purpose with the intention of being able to set up a Superfund site there. And, of course, city officials all across the country actually pay big bucks to treat the city's water with fluoride. And no, it's not the natural fluoride that is created in the environment. It's hydrofluorosilicic acid, which is a waste byproduct from phosphate fertilizer plants. So this has nothing to do with race or class. This is disgusting negligence of a system that wants to cut corners and doesn't care about the long-term devastating effects on your health. It's just more proof that you cannot trust the state to take care of you, look after your best interests, and the only thing that you can do that's truly safe and effective is filtering your own water.
I want more candy. I want more video games. Lie.
And it's that type of behavior that spurred me to do the research to develop a true nutraceutical formula that was designed to smooth out and help children focus. All of our children are hit with modern mind control. Television, music, fast food, GMOs, sugars, you name it. Young humans have not yet developed their nervous system and are being hammered daily by globalist concoctions. It's no wonder they can't focus and calm down and then are put on dangerous psychotropic drugs. Working with my team, we set out to find the best formula with the highest quality ingredients that children would actually like and take. We worked with the leading manufacturer in nutritional supplements that are safe for children to bring you the most affordable and powerful calming formula out there. Introducing Child Ease with herbs and calming extracts like chamomile and lemon balm and essential nutrients that taste great. Obtain your Child Ease today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's Child Ease exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com.